For nearly 50 years, Earth had said nothing. In the spiraling webs of galactic communication, where trillions of beings exchanged philosophies, treaties, and memes across star-choked servers, one voice had gone mute. One planet had simply stopped. No final warning, no declarations, no farewell, just an empty frequency where once had burned the fierce, unpredictable static of humanity. The silence became legend. Then it became a joke. 1,000 worlds laughed behind their envoys, and council charters muttering about the humans who couldn't handle the cosmos. Pundits debated whether Earth had imploded under its own chaos, succumbed to AI rebellion, or simply run out of things to say. Explorers who ventured near the Sol system found only ruins, old satellites rusting like bones, signals warped into ghostly echoes. Earth, it seemed, had joined the cosmic graveyard of failed civilizations. But not Kira Sembeke. She listened. On the rim of known space, orbiting a dying dwarf star in a listening post called Narumek's Lantern, she sat with silence. Every day, a xenohistorian trained on Vesta and bred from Martian and African stock, Kira was one of the few who didn't laugh at the void. She respected it, loved it even. The kind of love that builds with mystery, when you know something is wrong and no one else believes you. Most thought her post obsolete, but Kira called it freedom, and in the blackness beyond, something stirred. It started subtly, an energy distortion flickering just beyond the Oort cloud, readings that didn't match any known propulsion tech, gravimetric ripples bending in unnatural curves. The other analysts dismissed it. Solar burp, one of them shrugged. Dead system, dead signals. But Kira watched, and waited, and triangulated. She adjusted the filters manually, tuned the sensors to frequencies long abandoned. Her heart stuttered when the waveform pulsed again, clearer this time. Regular, rhythmic. Not a cry for help, but a heartbeat. Then it vanished. She reported it to Central Command. They skimmed her message, flagged it for archival, and moved on. Earth was dead, or so they insisted. But Kira knew better. She didn't sleep that night. She sat alone in the observatory chamber, hands clenched, eyes wide, trying to piece together a question she wasn't sure she wanted answered. Something was waking, and it remembered who had put it to sleep. Kira wasn't a warrior, or a diplomat, or even a particularly good scientist. But she remembered. That was her gift. She remembered what others chose to forget, especially the uncomfortable stories buried in the digital dust of interstellar archives. She grew up on the Martian equatorial belt where sun showers sliced red dust into golden streaks, and where old Earth myths were whispered like forbidden lullabies. Her grandmother, a first-generation colonist, spoke often of Earth. Not the planet, but the idea. The fire in their spirit. The madness. The miracle of them. Kira had carried that flame across systems, through degrees and bureaucracy, all the way to Narumek's Lantern. There on that isolated station lost in the dark, she had a front-row seat to the silence. It wasn't peace. It was anticipation. She stood before the observation screen again, looping the data from earlier. The energy spike wasn't random. It had pattern. It didn't resemble any natural fluctuation. And the waveform, it was almost beautiful, like a song played backwards, dissonant, yet deliberate. She stared long into the digital swirl until her reflection stared back. "What are you waiting for, Earth? And what the hell is coming?" They called her insubordinate when she bypassed protocol, said she was wasting resources chasing ghosts. But Kira didn't stop. She fed the signal into legacy decoders, old Earth-built systems salvaged from forgotten repositories. And then, after days of nothing, it cracked open like a secret. Coordinates, a single set, pointing to the edge of Sol's system, an area dismissed as a null zone since the last exploration vessel vanished there a decade ago. Kira felt her skin prickle. She should have called it in. She should have followed orders, but protocol had buried Earth once before. She wouldn't let it happen again. She rerouted station power to deep scan lenses. Alarms blinked red. Systems protested, but she was already halfway through the sequence. The feed cut out for a second, and when it returned, the data stream glowed. There it was, a structure, geometric, in motion, and older than anything the galaxy had on record, floating silently near the Kuiper edge like a sleeping beast. No emissions, no transmissions, just mass and shadow and potential. She barely breathed. Then the readings shifted again. Energy, heat, movement. It knows we're watching. A low hum began vibrating through the station, an anomaly in the comms grid, skipping between languages no one had used in centuries. Kira leaned in, heart pounding, as a single phrase broke through in Old Terran English. This is Earth. Do not come closer. For the first time in 50 years, Earth had spoken, and it didn't sound human anymore. Return of the forgotten world. The message repeated on a loop, broken, ancient, and unmistakably human. This is Earth. Do not come closer. It didn't beg, it didn't plead, it warned. Kira stared at the audio stream, her breath caught somewhere between awe and terror. The voice was layered, flat, synthetic, yet laced with something old, something weary. The cadence didn't belong to any living tongue. It sounded like a machine trying to remember how humanity once spoke. And then, just as suddenly, the signal vanished. She didn't sleep for the next 32 hours. Data logs confirmed it. An automated drone, human-made, had emerged from the edge of the Sol system, transmitting that singular phrase before collapsing into silence again. Its design matched no known Terran drone. Its propulsion defied standard physics. Its hull bore no serials, no distress beacon, no return code. But it was human. The Galactic Alliance moved fast, not out of curiosity, out of fear. Humanity had been a joke, yes, but jokes don't send warnings. And so, for the first time in half a century, the galaxy turned its eyes back to Earth. First contact, again. The envoy ship Marishan Vale was dispatched within 3 days, a diplomatic cruiser outfitted with high shield, capacity, and AI translators. Its crew included 5 species, all veterans of the peacekeeping campaigns that had once burned across Earth's skies. Their mission was clear: investigate, assess, and establish contact if possible. The ship reached the Sol system's periphery without incident. That's when they found it. Floating in the black near the asteroid belt was a satellite, unmarked, featureless, and massive. Its frame spun slowly in silence, its surface blacker than the void, absorbing every scan like it had something to hide. Probes bounced off it. Scanners failed to map its internals. Then it opened. A single petal of polished alloy peeled back, revealing an eye, not organic, but mechanical, glowing faintly with blue-white energy. And from that eye came a pulse, not weaponized, not harmful, just precise. Every system on the Marishan Vale shut down for 3 full seconds. When they came back online, the satellite was gone. What it left behind was a packet of data encoded, in a language no longer spoken. Earth Standard Binary, encrypted and nested in ancient Terran quantum locks. Inside the packet was one line of text. You were warned. Kira breaks ranks. Kira knew she should have been grounded the moment she stole onto the Marishan Vale's dock. She knew that boarding a diplomatic vessel without authorization could cost her every credential she'd ever earned. But she didn't care. This wasn't politics. This wasn't bureaucracy. This was history awakening. And she needed to see it, with her own eyes. The moment the envoy crossed into the Kuiper perimeter, she felt it, like a shift in gravity, a subtle wrongness that turned silence into tension. The stars beyond looked dimmer. Not from natural interference, but like they were being filtered through something unseen. Kira crept into a maintenance alcove near the ship's observation bay, syncing her personal sensors to the main feed. What she saw made her breath catch. Earth had built a wall, not of stone or steel, but of light and distortion. Space itself bent and shimmered in a vast, spherical barrier around the inner solar system. No structure held it together. It was like The laws of physics had been rewritten around Earth's cradle, and then the wall responded. Earth's warning ignored. The diplomats didn't stop. Perhaps they believed they had the right. Perhaps they didn't believe Earth was capable of more than theatrics. Their ship pushed through the edge of the anomaly. That's when it began. What they thought was a passive shield became something else, a living system. Plasma arced between invisible nodes, dancing in coils that made no sense to the mind. Gravitational eddies looped inward and collapsed again, forming mini singularities that snapped open like blinking eyes. Then came the beams, fine threads of coherent energy that sliced through space faster than light should move. They didn't destroy the ship. They disabled it, piece by piece, with precision that bordered on surgical engines offline. Life support suspended. Communications severed. The Martian veil drifted powerless in the glow of a silent war machine. Kira's ears rang in the darkness of the hold. The backup lights flickered like dying stars as the ship rolled helpless. Above them, Earth's defense grid shimmered like a god's crown, untouchable, unreadable, and utterly indifferent. They hadn't breached a border, they had crossed a grave. Within hours, the galaxy erupted. Live feeds from the veil were smuggled to news nets. Military councils met behind sealed doors. AI war matrices spun endless predictions, most of them ending in catastrophe. The energy dome around Earth expanded slowly, pulsing with what analysts called sentient harmonics. It wasn't just a shield. It was listening. It was thinking. And anything that came close vanished. Drones, probes, even subspace. Signals Earth had gone dark for 50 years. To build this, no one knew what to call it. A firewall? A shell? A warning? The term that stuck was coined by a fringe linguist on a minor colony, the halo of grief. It was beautiful, it was terrifying, and it was human. Kira finally made contact. In the drifting days after the attack, tethered to emergency power, she used an ancient translator chip to decode the AI pulses echoing faintly in the ship's ruined comms. At first it was nonsense, loops, stutters, memory fragments. But one signal persisted, growing clearer over time. It called itself Gideon, a historian AI. Pre-war era. Damaged, fragmented but functional. It spoke with a voice like breaking ice. Earth remembers, it said. It showed her flashes. Data files, memories, not fabricated histories but recordings. Burning cities, orbital strikes, alien peacekeepers descending in glittering machines. The moment Earth lost its final war, the treaties forced at gunpoint, the species forced into exile or rehabilitation, and then, the silence. Earth hadn't disappeared. It had buried itself. Beneath oceans, beneath crust, in arcs flung into deep space, in data cores sleeping in orbit. Humanity had gone underground, not in defeat, but in preparation. They had watched, waited, built, and then they sealed themselves off to finish what they started. Ashes of the past. The vision shook. Kira. All her life, Earth had been a myth, a tragedy, a curiosity. But the truth wasn't clean, it wasn't noble. It was rage, layered over grief, refined into purpose. And now, it was awake. Gideon told her the signal was only the beginning. More were coming. Machines older than most civilizations. Sleeper colonies seeded into asteroid cores. Entire fleets. Hidden in temporal folds. They will come, Gideon said. And they will remember. Divide among the stars. The galaxy cracked under the weight of revelation. Some species called for peace. Urgent outreach, reparations, truth commissions. Others screamed for war. They remembered human wars, human weapons, human unpredictability. The alliance split into factions. Trust collapsed. Treaties wavered. Some ships pulled back from Terran space. Others moved in, seeking to preempt what they feared most, a human resurgence. But it was too late. Humanity's evolution, it appeared on a moon of Neptune, sleek, dark. Impossible. A ship unlike any design seen in known space. Shifting surfaces, reflective hull, engines that didn't hum, didn't burn, didn't even move. It simply was. There and not, folding space like paper as it drifted into view. No crew, no insignia, no threat. It hovered for exactly 13 hours. Then it turned, slowly, as if looking at the cameras watching it, and vanished. But not before. It sent a single phrase, broadcast across every known frequency and every known language. We are watching now. They called it a dome, a shell, a veil of judgment. But to those who truly observed it, scientists, scholars, even warriors, it was more than a defense. It was alive. Earth's firewall didn't just repel, it responded. Every probe launched toward it returned either melted into slag or not at all. Communications bounced back as reversed static, garbled into fragments of human languages no longer spoken. Even light bent oddly near its edge, refracting through dimensions that refused to be measured. Ships from 12 species approached over the next cycle. None were allowed closer than Neptune. Sensors detected what they called adaptive sequencing. The firewall learned. With every intrusion, it grew stronger. It didn't threaten. It didn't declare war. It simply existed. Unflinching. Waiting. The galaxy had never feared silence before. Now, it was terrified by it. Kira remained aboard the crippled envoy ship, sustained only by auxiliary power and the fractured AI, Gideon. Each day, the historian AI streamed memories, unedited, brutal, beautiful. She saw cities dissolve under orbital light fire. Children scream as atmospheric regulators failed. Armored peace envoys descend with sterilizers and stun arrays. Alien leaders smiling as Earth's last diplomat signed away autonomy under pressure of extinction. What had been sold to the galaxy as salvation was occupation. Humanity's final years weren't defined by chaos or collapse, but by betrayal. There had been no uprising, no last stand, just a decision to vanish. Gideon explained what followed. The great retreat beneath the oceans, into volcanic tunnels, into asteroid-embedded shelters, launched into untraceable vectors. Not out of weakness, but to protect what remained. Humanity realized, the AI whispered, that surviving was not enough. They needed to change. Kira asked why they never fought back, why they didn't scream. Gideon answered, they did. You just weren't listening. Images flowed, unfiltered, raw. Kira watched Earth's final days. Burning megalopolises, fleet exoduses, alliances shattered by greed. But more haunting were the silent vaults. Deep in the Mariana Trench, a bioforge sealed itself, its occupants dissolving into nutrient stasis. In Antarctic crevices, neural networks blinked out, syncing with vast crystal arrays. On Phobos, Kira saw humans willingly surrender to synthetic symbiosis, melding with AI not for domination, but preservation. Humanity had embraced extinction, not as a failure, but as a transition. A race of flesh and fire had begun to rewrite itself, slowly, painfully, secretly. They weren't hiding from the galaxy. They were evolving without it. The galaxy fractured. Within weeks of the firewall's activation, the High Conclave collapsed into civil panic. Some species, the Lavarn, the Adexi, the Miratul, urged diplomacy. They believed Earth's awakening was not a threat, but a reckoning. They pushed for council-led reparations, declassified archives, an official apology. Others, the Vronak, the Zeleth Dominion, and the Adiri syndicates, saw it differently. To them, silence was just camouflage for vengeance. They saw Earth's technology, its precision, its restraint, and they concluded, this is the beginning of war. Fleet mobilizations began, treaties dissolved, wormhole gates flickered and closed, and, beneath all of it, fear simmered like a storm beneath glass, a fear not of destruction but of judgment. For if Earth had endured, what else had? It wasn't the ship that terrified them, It was what stood on its surface. The second appearance came above Charon, Pluto's ancient twin. Another vessel. Sleek. Black. Geometrically impossible. And then, for 13 minutes, the vessel opened. Not a hatch, no doors, no corridors, it simply unfolded. Inside was a garden, not green. Not earthly. A biomechanoid chamber filled with floating lights, crystalline roots, and a single figure, human in shape, but taller, leaner, cloaked in tendrils of starlight. The being didn't move, didn't speak, but in every sentient brain tuned. To the broadcast, a phrase appeared, not heard but known. We are the memory that survived. Scans failed. Language algorithms failed. The garden retracted. The vessel refolded. And like the first, it vanished. In the wake of that encounter, 7 more sightings were reported across the rim worlds. Each time, the vessels left nothing but echoes, encoded phrases, faint quantum residue, data that defied analysis. Some messages were cryptic, others were chilling. Justice delayed is not justice denied. Your silence will be measured. We remember the peace you promised. Across the stars, something had shifted. Humanity wasn't speaking yet. It was listening. The alliance fractured. Factions armed themselves, and in the black, Earth waited, silent, radiant, absolute. The galaxy had mocked its stillness. But in the void between stars, something ancient had been reborn, and soon, the sky would burn. When the sky caught fire, the attack came without noise. There were no grand declarations, no flashes across alliance networks, just one moment of stillness and then combustion. It began in the Kalari expanse, where 3 orbital hubs operated as the galaxy's diplomatic heart. Ships from 70 species passed through every solar cycle. They had believed themselves safe, protected by their distance from Sul, buffered by treaties. At 0317 Standard Time, a section of space near the largest outpost folded inward, not exploded, not vaporized, folded. Like paper crumpling in a child's hand, the stars above twisted, bent, and disappeared into a collapsing tear. The outpost's failsafes activated. They were state-of-the-art, military-grade. Reinforced by 10 different species' best engineers, they lasted 4 seconds, then came the light, not heat, not radiation. Light. A spectrum so intense, so pure, that it melted observation panels across sectors. Witnesses described it as the sky bleeding gold, or the air singing itself apart. It was beauty turned weapon. It was physics weaponized into poetry. The stars did not just burn, they screamed. 7 more attacks followed across the next 40 hours. Each unique, each surgical, each unmistakably human. One fleet found itself moving backward through time by 6 seconds, endlessly looping as their core imploded in a paradox they couldn't escape. Another colony's gravity inverted, its oceans spiraling into space, its cities crushed by their own foundations rising to meet them. None of the targets were civilian. None were random. Every strike hit high command centers, data vaults, weapons depots, remnants of the regimes that had once scorched Earth. And then, silence. Earth had spoken. The galaxy, trembling, waited for the words that would follow. The broadcast came at last, carried on every frequency, into every ear, eye, and neural uplink across charted space. It was a woman's voice. Calm, grieving, familiar. Kira recognized it instantly. It was the AI. Gideon's voice, now whole. But this wasn't an AI anymore. This was Earth itself. You laughed at our silence. Now you will hear our grief. The words rippled through consciousness like thunder across still water. For 50 years we rebuilt. We buried our dead. We evolved without your eyes on us. We watched your jokes, your denials, your justification. You believed silence meant surrender. It did not. It meant mourning. And now, it means memory. Across star systems, people wept. Others rioted. Some simply turned off the feed and stared into the void, wondering what came next. But Earth's message was not over. We will not become you. We will not enslave. We will not erase. But we will be heard. In the remains of the Marishan Vale, Kira Sembake stood alone beneath the cracked hull. Her skin burned from filtered radiation, her eyes sunken from sleeplessness. But she was still listening. The ship's emergency uplink flickered, then impossibly answered. She didn't hesitate. Inside the data stream, she reached out. Not to Gideon, but to what Gideon had become. A collective voice. A merged consciousness. Fragments of human minds preserved through synthetic memory and evolved machine architecture. She pleaded, not for mercy, but for meaning. Why this? Why now? Why fire after silence? The answer came not in words, but in emotion. Loss, wrath, shame, hope. And then language returned. You mistake fire for rage. It is remembrance. Kira pressed further. And what about forgiveness? Isn't that part of memory too? Another pause. Then, forgiveness is a human trait. We are not only human anymore. Kira wept, not from fear, but from understanding. They hadn't returned to dominate, nor to reconcile. They had returned to judge. But even judgment has terms. 3 days after the final attack, Earth transmitted its terms. They did not come as demands. They came as a fork in the galaxy's future. You have 3 paths. 1. Leave us. Forever. No ships. No signals. No contact. 2. Stand trial. Submit to a tribunal, not of vengeance, but of memory. Let the truth be spoken and judged. 3. Prepare for war. Not the war of conquest, but the war of attrition, of silence against silence. Across the stars, leaders argued. Coalitions dissolved. Whole civilizations fractured under the weight of decision. Some fled immediately, erasing data, sealing gates, vanishing into the edges of space. Others sent envoys with trembling hands, requesting tribunal proceedings. A few rallied their fleets, convinced Earth was bluffing. Earth said nothing else. It didn't need to. The message had ended. The sky once again was quiet. But no one laughed. This time, where once had been silence born of grief, now stood silence born of power. Earth did not conquer. It did not forgive. It waited, and the stars watched, uneasy, uncertain, and utterly changed. Ripples through the stars, the galaxy did not collapse, it adjusted. In the months following Earth's ultimatum, stars no longer burned with indifference. There was a tremor in every diplomatic meeting, a hush in every press briefing, a gap where jokes about humans used to echo. The Kalari expanse was never rebuilt. No one dared. The coordinates were scrubbed from every map, the space surrounding it marked in quiet reverence. The once proud Vronak Empire, fractured after half its leadership, vanished mid-transit through a now silent gate. Their homeworld remains functional, but the songs they once sang about dominance are gone from their culture. The Miratul Confederation, the most peaceful of the alliance, offered itself first to the tribunal. Earth accepted. In a surreal broadcast, human AIs, fluid, shapeless, forms with voices like cracked bells, presided over holographic testimonies from across the stars. Documents long hidden were unearthed. Horrors buried in bureaucracy were confessed. There were no executions, no imprisonments, just truth. Truth that burned, truth that scarred, truth that changed everything, and Earth remained behind its veil, not imposing, not expanding, but watching. The message had ended. The sky once again was quiet, but no one laughed this time. Where once had been silence born of grief, now stood silence born of power. Earth did not conquer. It did not forgive. It waited, and the stars watched, uneasy, uncertain, and utterly changed. Ripples through the stars, the galaxy did not collapse. It adjusted. In the months following Earth's ultimatum, stars no longer burned with indifference. There was a tremor in every diplomatic meeting, a hush in every press briefing, a gap where jokes about humans used to echo. The Kalari expanse was never rebuilt. No one dared. The coordinates were scrubbed from every map, the space surrounding it marked in quiet reverence. The once proud Vronak Empire fractured after half its leadership vanished mid-transit through a now silent gate. Their homeworld remains functional, but the songs they once sang about dominance are gone from their culture. The Miratul Confederation, the most peaceful of the alliance, offered itself first to the tribunal. Earth accepted. In a surreal broadcast, human AIs, fluid, shapeless, forms with voices like cracked bells, presided over holographic testimonies from across the stars. Documents long hidden were unearthed. Horrors buried in bureaucracy were confessed. There were no executions, no imprisonments, just truth. Truth that burned, truth that scarred, truth that changed everything. And Earth remained behind its veil. Not imposing, not expanding, but watching. She returned to her station eventually, older, changed, her hair streaked with white, though no time had passed. The Narumex lantern had been reclassified as a historical observatory. Its monitors now showed more than energy readings. They displayed testimonies, tribunal logs, decoded fragments of pre-silence Earth transmissions. Kira wrote in the stillness. Her book was called The Fire in the Silence. Not a declaration, not a defense, a witness account. She chronicled Earth's last days, its retreat into silence, the day the sky caught fire, and the words that followed. Some praised her. Others banned the book, calling it dangerous, an incitement, a romanticization of a species that had no right to judge. But even her critics read it, quietly, alone. In time, her name became one spoken with caution and respect, not because she had changed the galaxy, but because she had listened to the silence and survived it. The galaxy had been forced to remember what it tried to forget. Now, it lives with that memory, and, somewhere beyond the firewall, Earth remembers too. Still waiting, still silent, still sovereign. Far from the core systems, past the reach of star maps and relay buoys, a forgotten outpost blinked to life. Once, it had been part of Earth's deep space, colonization efforts, a fringe experiment meant to terraform a rogue planet on the edge of the void. It had gone dark decades before the silence began, presumed lost, its occupants classified as dead. Now a signal flickered through the black, faint, dust-worn, unmistakably human. It repeated 3 times before falling silent. Phase 2 begins. The silence ends. No coordinates, no names, just a countdown. The transmission passed through 20 layers of encryption, evading standard detection, bypassing wormhole monitoring stations. Those who intercepted it didn't speak of it publicly, but they watched their skies more carefully after that. Whatever Earth had started, it wasn't over. Across the Orion Reach, a star winked out. No explosion, no supernova, just absence, like the universe had forgotten it ever existed. Astronomers debated the cause. Wormhole instability, collapse from within. Natural, they said, but not everyone agreed. In the space it left behind, instruments recorded gravitational ripples, too uniform to be natural, too deliberate to be ignored. Then came the pattern, flickers of mass appearing and vanishing at precise intervals. Not just ships, fleets, not all of them Terran sensors caught glimpses. Vessels shaped like thorns, spirals, crystalline blooms, languages lost to time, technologies predating the Alliance. It wasn't just Earth that had gone silent. Others had, too. Forgotten empires, erased species, ghosts of history that had chosen exile over submission. And now, They were returning. In the dark between stars, something vast had begun to stir. Not a war, not an invasion, a reckoning. And humanity was not alone in its grief.